How's it going, everybody? Ryan here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to more Animal Crossing New Horizons. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about something that has been kind of a question that I've been thinking about as of late. As someone who's played this game pretty consistently over the last pretty much 3 years since this game has come out, one question that I've kind of been thinking of as of late is this game worth it to buy in 2023? As I've mentioned before, Animal Crossing New Horizons is coming up on its 3-year anniversary, basically. And there are still quite a few people out there who never picked this game up in 2020 when it first came out, or picked it up in 2020, put it down for a little bit, and are maybe even thinking about coming back to the game today. So I'm just going to be doing a little bit of work on my island today, just laying down some pathing, maybe doing a little bit of terraforming, nothing too crazy while I talk about this topic. So if this is a type of video you guys like, by all means, as always, be sure to give it a like. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos from me in the future. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And I feel like in order for me to get started appropriately talking about whether or not this game is worth it in 2023, I kind of have to look at it and evaluate it from what the game was back in 2020 when the game first came out, when it was brand new and we all had no idea what was going on with it. We were all in the middle of doing a lot of sciencey stuff. See, back when Animal Crossing New Horizons came out back in 2020, and I've talked about this in previous videos as of late, especially as well too, there was a lot of experimentation going on back then that a lot of us aren't, well, it's not that we aren't willing to do it now, it's just that with the time that has passed since those times have been more prominent in the Animal Crossing New Horizons community, there have been so many Wikipedia pages, there are a lot of Instagram profiles, YouTube channels, mine included, that have done a lot of the kind of like back-breaking, researching, hard work that we needed to do in the very beginning to even get simple things such as when do certain NPCs show up. We were doing crazy like things regarding our night sky to figure out when it was going to be a rainy day or when it was going to be like a shooting star day. The biggest one back then, honestly, I think was trying to get blue roses. I think that from a percentage standpoint, getting the blue rose is the hardest one to breed out of all of the flower combinations. And that was something that we had so many different flower fields. We had so many different infographics on how to do it and so many different tests on which one was the most efficient way to do that as well too. In addition to all the sciencey stuff that none of us really knew, there was a lot of different island designing that was going on, and it felt like, and to me at least, it seemed like a lot of people were willing to be a little bit more experimental with their island design, or rather not be so crazy about what they thought their island was going to look like at the very end of it all. I feel like as of late, there has been a lot of talk when it comes to making islands in this game in regards to their theme, in regards to the overall goal for the island. And I think that especially if you're someone who is coming into this game in 2023, that question can be a really kind of hard question to answer, enough that it probably makes you want to maybe even stop playing. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, what I'm basically talking about is there are certain themes that the Animal Crossing New Horizons community have come together to term in order to easily identify what type of island a certain person has decided to design. The most common one that I think I've seen over the last 3 years has been the cottagecore design. But of course, there are other designs as well too, such as kidcore or citycore or castle core. Basically, think of a theme for an idea for an island and add core to the end of it. And I would say 90% of the time, there's most likely going to be an island design with that style that you can kind of look at. But the idea of themes back in 2020 was pretty straightforward. Like when the cherry blossom season was first coming around. And again, this game came out in a time when a lot of people thought that this game was basically an incomplete game. And to be fair, like from kind of a trying to be as neutral about it as possible, yeah, I can see back in 2020 how it was basically unfinished, especially compared to the final product now, as well as compared to the final product of previous Animal Crossing games in the past. So we had events like we were still learning about the cherry blossom events, and then the Easter event came up with Zipper, and then as the months went on during its first year, we were getting introduced to all these different events with the summertime update introducing swimming, and then of course our first winter time in 2020 with Animal Crossing New Horizons. And so a lot of people were, instead of theming their island to be themed around a specific idea, which was, maybe a combination of items. And I guess at some level you can say that this is the same thing for holiday events too. We were all, it seemed to me, theming our island based around whatever it is event that Nintendo had decided to release for New Horizons at that time. So around Halloween, we all just simply decorated for Halloween. It didn't really feel like anybody had a specific type of themed island. It's just that we all put pumpkins everywhere. We all made our island a little bit more spookier. But now it feels like there's all these like spooky core or horror core concept islands that more or less try to capture that feeling and have it be the main theme of their design process from beginning to end. So back then we had, people doing the signs for Animal Crossing. We had some people that were getting into the island designing of creating different patterns or creating different themes, and that started to spread a little bit. But the biggest real reason why buying Animal Crossing in 2023 would be that much different than buying it back in 2020 is, it's unfortunately something that we all would like to remove from our memory banks and wish that it never happened. But the obvious biggest difference between 3 years ago and now, for the most part, is that we all have a little bit more free time now, which I know for some people that may never have changed in the last couple of years, but for me in general, back when this game first came out, I mean, it was the only thing that really was able to keep I would say, like, in that time, it was able to keep me kind of sane, to have something that I could latch onto as a world away from our current world, which surprisingly made Animal Crossing New Horizons back in 2020. A lot of people view it as one of the most perfectly timed releases of any video game ever. Now, coincidentally as well too, I don't know if anybody ever made this connection, but it was kind of funny that one of the best releases of a video game as of recent memory, other than Animal Crossing, the funniest part about that really is the fact that in Animal Crossing New Horizons, you are tasked with like kind of creating or decorating a deserted island. So it's just kind of ironic how that whole thing fit. But yeah, when Animal Crossing first came out, we all latched onto it, and it was really easy for us to use it as kind of an escape. I still remember days of opening like Google Excel or Google Sheets and creating a grid for my island, even though I know there were all these island designer programs and websites that were being released earlier in that time. It was so much easier for me to just open up Google Sheets or an Excel document, create a bunch of little squares, and plan my island out that way. I don't know if anybody else was crazy enough to do that, but I was thinking about, all the different locations that I was going to be decorating on my island pretty much 24/7. It was pretty crazy. But again, this was all wrapped around a game that a lot of us viewed as, at that point, basically being kind of essential or necessary. It was nice to feel connected to the world in a way that wasn't just so, like, negative all the time. And that was the world of Animal Crossing back in 2020. There was this gigantic sense of community, and it felt like everyone wanted to be a part of it as well too, because I mean, you had celebrities that were playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've recently come across videos of some of my favorite like podcasters and stuff, them touring their own Animal Crossing islands from 2 years ago, and being so excited about the game as well too. I watched clips of people just running around trying to catch the same fish for 20 minutes, and I don't know. I feel like the amount of people that would be willing to do that now are definitely a lot slimmer. But anyway, what does that do for us in 2023? Again, whether or not you have picked it up before and decided to put it down a couple of years ago and are thinking of coming back into it, or you never picked it up at all and now you're kind of thinking of, well, I got a little bit of free time now and everyone's always talked about Animal Crossing New Horizons over the last couple of years. Maybe I'll give it a shot now. So what is different now versus back then? Well, as I mentioned before, a lot of the science stuff has basically become non-existent. One of the biggest things that I enjoyed about Animal Crossing was constantly going in and testing out new theories, testing out new things. Can this work here? Can that go there? Can I put this here? Can I terraform like this? Yada, 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 yada. With Wikipedia being such a thing now, or rather Animal Crossing wikis or game wikis being a thing, and of course, with so many YouTube channels and YouTube videos about the game itself, whenever you need to know something now about anything in Animal Crossing, you just simply look it up on the wiki. And the game that I attribute this to now too is Stardew Valley. I think that in the beginning of Stardew Valley, when you first start playing it, there's a real nice sense of accomplishment and wonder as you go around and you try to explore the world and figure out where all the characters are, what you can and can't do, what to sell, what not to sell, etc., etc. But at a certain point, and maybe this maybe just be me, but as far as I can tell on the internet, it seems like a lot of people do this too. At a certain point, you kind of just want to know more. And that knowing more leads you to the Wikipedia page, and that Wikipedia page essentially leads to spoilers in some capacity. But what the Wikipedia page does more so than anything is it just removes the wonder of what is necessary in order to accomplish a certain thing. And Animal Crossing New Horizons currently has what is basically the Stardew Valley wiki treatment. It's no longer, how do I get a blue rose? Like, what is the most efficient way to get a blue rose? And then figuring it out on your own. And that would be the majority of where your playtime comes from. I have almost 1,000 hours in Animal Crossing New Horizons. And I would say that half of that comes from designing, and the other half of it comes from constantly testing different theories from a couple of years ago. But that time of doing all that stuff has essentially come and gone. Nobody's really testing out things because there's really nothing to test anymore. We're all just a bunch of island designers at this point. And it's with the idea that we've all become island designers that I think really boils down the question of whether or not Animal Crossing New Horizons is or is not worth it for you in 2023. I've said this from, it feels like the very beginning. Animal Crossing New Horizons, to me, has been an island designing game through and through. There are a lot of things that we have asked for this game in regards to its update schedule and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, Nintendo itself as a company is already in the process of moving on from this. I do truly feel as if they've released all of the updates that they would release up until this point, and what is it like the 2.0 update? As someone who started a brand new island, I can say that the 2.0 update is a little bit overwhelming, admittedly. I did kind of like how in the beginning we were getting like a few updates every now and again, and sure, the updates were simply introducing things that the Animal Crossing series has already had in the past, but it was nice, especially again when you think about it from the aspect of they think that you're just going to be doing island designing. They didn't want to, I think, hopefully introduce too many things at once to overwhelm us, because then it would kind of take away from the overall goal of the game, which again I believe truly is to just design an island. Now with the 2.0 update being out and it being 3 years, and it just seems like every day I log into Animal Crossing New Horizons now, there's always some brand new event or thing. And again, this goes back to the Stardew Valley thing. Even though that kind of stuff is already baked into the playthrough already, you meet new NPCs on like day 2 or 3, and it comes at you pretty quickly, even if you don't know what's going on. Whereas in New Horizons, you have to more or less instigate those conversations yourself. There's a lot of stuff that is kind of just happening as the days go on, and that is a benefit for someone who has played this game a lot and knows what to expect. But for someone who hasn't played this game a lot over the last few years, that kind of stuff can probably be a little bit overwhelming. And because of the overall lack of general NPC style events, right? Like, we only really get like one true major NPC event that I can like attribute is the Rover's Mayday Maze. That to me, for whatever reason, is one of the closest things to an actual like Animal Crossing style thing that I have experienced while playing New Horizons. As I've played a few of the older Animal Crossing games, and that is why I with such confidence can say that this is an island designing game, because it plays so differently than the previous ones. But Rover's Mayday Maze had me excited that it was kind of going back to the old ways of Animal Crossing, where you could play mini games with some villagers or some NPCs that you wouldn't be able to interact with. But in this particular game, NPCs don't really have a lot of agency. They don't really do a lot. So the question then boils back down to, what are you doing in this game at the end of it all? When all is said and done, if you were to come home and pick up this game nowadays, what would you be expecting? Well, you would be expecting to play an island designing game. And that is the question that I would pose to someone who wants to pick this game up now or is thinking about getting back into it. If you are someone who is either of those questions, I ask you, do you want to design a pretty large island? I flattened my island recently and started to terraform it back up, and I can tell you that the island size is it's pretty generous, but that generosity can be very daunting, especially when designing takes so long. If you're not a time traveler, that's another thing too. I feel like a lot of people nowadays have become so lax on time traveling. It's just like, who cares? But in the beginning, it was crazy. In the beginning, you couldn't time travel without someone without feeling like someone's going to come knock on your door and come take your Switch away. So if you aren't someone who feels like the mode of relaxation you want to get into when you're either off of school or off of work, or you just feel like playing a game, if your mode of desire isn't in the mode of, well, I feel like just taking my time on an island design and going through that whole process, if that is not it, to be completely honest, I would say you're probably better off playing a different game. At its core, Animal Crossing is still also a life sim RPG style game as well too. You play a character who lives on a separate world. They have certain tasks that they accomplish in order for things to happen, and there you go. But the difference between this RPG and other RPGs, if you even want to continue calling it that, I just call it a life sim, I guess, is that you have to design the world around you as well too. I will say that one of the more satisfying parts of island designing is seeing the villagers that you have on your island walk around. Although to then, kind of foil that, one of the most frustrating parts about island designing is to see that none of your villagers actually care about the designs that you have implemented. I remember one of my earlier designs, I implemented like a cafe style area on my island that none of my villagers used, only me for photos, and it just felt like, well, what was even the point? Island designing in this game can be a lot of fun. Whether or not you have an idea for a theme, or if you're just like me and you simply just start designing it and let the island kind of speak for itself as you start to terraform up or down, start to place houses, start to see what your villagers look like on your island. I think a lot of stuff when it came to designing my islands has been more or less just kind of based off of instinct, feel, how does this look, how does that not look, and a lot of tearing stuff down and trying new things. But that's kind of what the game is asking you to do here. So is Animal Crossing New Horizons worth it in 2023? Well, at the end of it all, like I said before, I think that you have to want to design an island similarly how if you want to play an MMORPG, then you wouldn't play this, you would play World of Warcraft. However, if you have no desire to play an MMORPG, then you just wouldn't play World of Warcraft. So if you're someone who looks at the idea of Animal Crossing New Horizons and wants a nice little life sim to play, again, just you come off work or you get off school and you just want to come home and relax, Animal Crossing New Horizons can still do that for you. It really can. You don't have to terraform. You don't have to do any crazy designing. And I know that, again, there are a lot of Instagram and YouTube videos about different island designs, but I would really highly suggest that you don't look at other people's designs as a comparison of your own. You should never feel bad or feel sad or mad that your design doesn't look as good as someone else's. I've always been one for allowing other people to utilize my designs as inspiration. Lately, I've seen a lot of people get really, really stingy with their Animal Crossing designs, almost like they have some weird copyright patent on it. But either way, see what you like if island designing is your thing, and even start giving it a shot. Start trying to design it yourself. And if you find that it starts to become a little bit too difficult, take a step back, make sure you're not forcing yourself to try and design this thing, because all you're going to do is you're just going to burn yourself out and you're just not going to want to play this game anymore. And from a dailies perspective, like watering your plants or watering your crops or going to the store and checking on what's new to buy that day or checking the store to see what turnip prices are nowadays, this is still good for that. Again, it's just that the time spent doing it now is going to feel a lot less than back then, again, because all the knowledge is out there, all the information is out there, anything you want to know, you can just know it. And it goes without saying, but the world now is a little bit different from a couple of years ago, both in the real world and in the Animal Crossing world. But that's going to do it for me for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope that you all enjoyed, and I hope that if you are struggling with figuring out whether or not this game is for you nowadays, I hope that this was somewhat insightful to give you an idea of how at this point, I would say a kind of veteran Animal Crossing New Horizons player feels about the game 3 years after its release. Thank you all once again for watching and for your support. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and if you like this video, once again, be sure to drop a like on it, and if you want to see more videos from me in the future, be sure to subscribe. Have a great day, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.